There's just no way. Most of these operations, they're labor intensive, they're dirty, and they're toxic. So it isn't like, there's no way you can make this non-toxic, no way you can make it not dirty and dusty. And by the way, I never put the clothes with carbon fiber dust on them in with the regular laundry. I make a pile out there, and Karen does them all separately. We've made the mistake of putting them in with regular laundry. There's little microscopic hairs get in the clothes, and you feel like you're itching all the time. Now with this little thing, you can see where I've ground this away in this corner, because I'm going to set, in this little ridge, I'm going to set two little tiny pinholes, the exact thickness of the safety wire I'm going to use as a little confining piece in there. Now I've found, and Wayne has told me, that it's a lot easier, and I've found it to be true, just the holes for the venting here, and I know where these vent holes should go. Doing them with a burr is a lot better than doing them with a drill, and I'd like to keep them just a little bit, the slightest little bit in fact, undersized, so that it'd be a press fit and be a nice tight seal around there. And we know the overflow is going to go up in this corner. Again, I'm not running the burr all the way in. I also, now when I did this cap, I've already pre-roughened inside, because I'm going to glue the tubes from the inside also. Wherever there's going to be a joint, wherever the glue is going to, the glue is really the same resin with microspheres. You want it to be rough, or it's not going to stick well. Now this is the third day we've worked on this part. We're 3 days into it, and we're ready to set up the venting. I'm going to drill the two little tiny holes here, and we're ready to start bending the tubes. Before I go any further, I just want to get all the little dust and chips out. I'm using M600. There really isn't much in there, but if there is anything, it just makes the first time the person that's going to fly the tank, they're not going to get a lean run. A good chance they won't anyway. Certainly a lot less corrosion and things come out of it. Corrosion's not the right word. A lot less has come out of these than any new tank, any metal tank I've ever seen. Anyway, the key thing is to get this roughed up, or else you don't get that good secondary bond. And Wayne has told me, and I've found it to be true, of course, that this is the K&S tubing that we've used. It's available from Rodak, exactly is where I got this. It's 1/8 inch, and needless to say, we buy a case at a time. Now the first thing about the aluminum tubes is these are not like copper tubes. You don't get to bend them in all kind of crazy angles without having a problem. So the first step in this is I want to get a tight fit. I want to fit where that actually sits in there. I don't want to have and if that were loose, if it's a little bit on the loose side, I don't want to force the tube either. This is just a little bit of hand labor to get this to be a press fit. You want the pickup tube to be 1/8 of an inch from the back of the tank. Some of the choices we have, if we move this up a little bit more, we'll get a cleaner shut off, but the price is it always leaves 1/4 ounce of fuel in the tank at about 1/8 of an inch, and Wayne gave me those numbers, I had already arrived at them, so 1/8 of an inch from the back, the uniflow will be another 1/4 of an inch further up, and then when they're done, I have these two little holes drilled. and I have aircraft safety wire. I'm going to make a band and tie it inside. Then I have to glue these tubes in, gluing them in and letting them dry overnight. And then the last thing, make sure all the vents are clear. The last thing will be to glue the cap on. And then pressure check it. How long the pickup should be, I know this dimension will be 1/4 of an inch less. So I just want to rough cut this, and the way I cut the aluminum tubes is with a number 11 blade. Just score them, they break right off. Full length of the tube, 80 grit paper, and just scuff it. Again, for the same reason, I want that epoxy to get a bond. I'm twisting it so I'm not getting straight lines up and down. I also want the part that's going to come out of the tank to have no sharp edge on it. I always keep all the sandpaper that I've used for sanding carbon fiber in a separate box. The reason for that box is I don't want the carbon dust at the end of the day. I take that box outside and dump it, blow it off with an air hose, because you can see what happens. The carbon dust, well, this is aluminum dust, the carbon dust from sanding is not good to breathe in. Okay, these tubes are ready to install. The next thing is to get our little piece of wire, aircraft safety wire that I got from Dan Banjock. I just need to cut a small piece. Need to put a little U-shaped bend in it. Can be a tricky, as I say it, a little bit tricky, because we want to get both of the tubes where we like them. And that one hole is just a tad, just a little bit bigger than I'd like it to be. And once I get, actually you can leave them sticking out for the part. Then I need to take the safety wire. I want to make it snug, but I don't want to make it so tight that it pinches the tube or that it cuts its way through the carbon, because this is stainless steel wire. And again, it's pretty strong. Once I get it snug, and it just has a little tension, so now I can set the tubes pretty much where I want them. And measure that I have the right dimensions here. I want 1/8 from the back. And once that gets snug, now you can see I can kind of set this in position. And now I can trim off. I'll check that I have the right. In fact, I want 1/8 and 5/16. And I can trim off this extra safety wire. Once it's trimmed, now I can put the final set on these tubes. And you can see that it's tight enough now that I don't have to worry about that. I need to put this tube in, and then I need to mix up a real tiny batch of the epoxy with the micro spears and get all these tubes glued from the inside and from the outside. And then that gets put aside to dry. I want to do the same thing, mix up a little bit of paste, but I want to leave some of it unmixed. Now the reason for that is I want to take the areas where the tubes are, so that I'm getting, actually on the bond itself, I'm getting raw resin.